Starting this game really is an exercise in patience. Like I'm gonna say it every single time in the hope that maybe someday it gets fixed. This game starts up like your grandfather's old car that he took out to the back of the barn and beat the engine up with like a bat. It really doesn't work as well as you would expect. It really does run like one of those old pieces of shit. But what's crazy is it's just how buggy the way that it starts up. It goes up, starts on a different monitor, then it slows down your entire computer, and then it boots up your and then it doesn't slow down your entire computer. I don't get it. But we're gonna finish this game today finally. I'm also not gonna raw dog this next session. So again, there's a lot of issues with this that I kind of got annoyed of. I couldn't handle the immense amount of backtracking within the resort, within the labyrinth, within the hotel, within the apartment. Sorry, I couldn't deal with it because it was just so frustratingly slow. Such a slow experience, and it wasn't even like a fun kind of slow where you get to think about it. It was slow and tedious because you have to deal with all these stupid little monsters in the way. To the point where I put the game from hardcore to normal. To like light, because I was just tired of dealing with it. And I also don't even know what the point of this is. What is the point of this? Why do you even need to do that? Huh? Schedule. Maybe I should think about this. You know what? Why even bother with this? I'm also aware that this game... Oh, that's why. Because you're too heavy. Maximum weight is one person. So you have to leave everything to do this next section. Okay. So you have to raw dog this. God damn it. So yeah. We were talking about it a bit during the VR chat segment, how I feel like it feels like a really long piece. And apparently the original has even more backtracking, which feels even worse. So I'm like, I don't know if we even want to play the original. In general, I just feel like both games go on for too long. And it's not even, it really isn't like an attention span thing, because we've played long games before. Very, very long games. But specifically, it's the way that these games feel really long. It feels uniquely long to them. This feels bad. Hey, you. And now there's an annoying monster. Oh god. With a section, mind you, where you have no weapons, so now you need to deal with this annoying monster. No map to check. You have to deal with all the hallways that look the same too. I'm just glad that we lowered the combat difficulty from hardcore into non-hardcore. I think hardcore was a mistake for us going that far into it. It just wasn't worth it. But it's an overall interesting game. I actually do still enjoy I enjoy the overall concept. I very often find I'd rather get the highlights of this rather than the mediocre combat experience and the mediocre, like, dealing with the pieces experience. And finding random items to make things. Although I do find the meaning behind the items, if you can decipher them, to be very fascinating. Like even in the previous one, oh, I forget now. What? Stop. 4. You fuck off. 4, 2. Oh my god. This is so. Oh my god. Yeah, this is a frustrating section. I'll just clip myself to see the fucking thing. I don't want to deal with that. But the way I feel about this game, it really does feel like very often you're fighting the game to get to the parts that are actually good. The parts that you care about within the story. Those story beats that really, really change your mind about what's happening here. And give you a level of enlightenment, which is interesting. The combat really feels... I mean, it's cool, it's better than it was before, but... It's like, it really doesn't change the fact that it still feels very simplistic. In many different ways. Especially for a lot of these enemies. The only cool enemy that I was thinking about that I think that benefited from the combat was specifically the monster with that hangs underneath the buildings. The floor. That you can shoot the legs off to knock off. I think that's the only monster that really benefited from this full-on perspective change. Otherwise, it's just still very slow. Slow and tedious. It's really the key is that everything feels tedious in this game. tedious. Tedium. But the problem, again, that I mentioned during the VR chat segment was, I don't know if tedium is the point. Because this game is, in a way, trying to tell a story with its tedium. It's unlike other games where the tedium is a consequence of something. This one is like, no, it needs the tedium to tell you something. Something very important. As painful as it is. But my god. Did it have to be this tedious to go through these very long-winded hallways to go back and forth to find items to then go and bother and deal with these things? And then the monsters that really don't feel interesting to fight except for like one single monster, which is this one, but not in this. What sucks too is that not in this configuration. This monster in this configuration doesn't feel fun. I would rather have the top-down monster where you get to fight him, and he falls down and you know, you shoot his legs, and there's a bit of a skill element to it to shoot his legs well. It's more enticing than this. Now the baker thing should go over here. I need all of you to walk over here. Come here. Come here, come on. Come on, come here. Follow me. Yep, good, follow me. Good, good, good. I'm just gonna take a screenshot of this. I know it's antithetical to the point of the game, but it's just too tedious at this point. And it sucks, because like, it'd be a cool element if you know, it was less annoying to deal with. That's the thing about this game's combat and just general mechanics. Except for the exploration feels like tedium all the way through. The combat feels like annoyances and tedium. Feels off in so many different ways. Nothing works, it just won't wash off all the new sheets. Which is the illness that they were going through. Let's open the safe now. We should get something cool, I think. Assuming. That's the code. This is the bread count. Look at the bread count. 4. I'm assuming it counts the one in the shadow. 4. Well, maybe it's just 0 actually. So 4, 0, 2, 2. Okay, but then it would just be 4, 4, 3, 3. 4, 2, 4, 3. Maybe it's not that. The bread count is important, but for something else. What is the bread count important for? But it has to be important for that. There's nothing else that it could be important for, right? The bread, it's literally the only thing that's important that needs counting is this. The safe. Though maybe inside the freezer room. Let's hope at least. Please fuck off. Oh god. And the worst part too is the way that the monster affects you. It stun locks you. It fucking stun locks you. So you have to sit there, wait for a stupid animation to finish. I have so many problems with this. Another broken toy. With a rotten apple. Or a good apple. No, it should be a rotten apple based on the original. That's morbid. And to know that the original game has more backtracking because you're so lost in the fog. Which, to be fair, I heard it's like the same fog as Silent Hill 1. So it doesn't seem that bad to me. Because I did enjoy the amount of fog in Silent Hill 1. I thought it wasn't that bad. But, you know. Just the amount of backtracking and the amount of empty space and time. That's the thing about backtracking that feels worse too, is it's just empty space and time that doesn't really lead to anything new. I don't think I could handle that. It's a good thing that we're playing the remake, which at least has interesting combat. To some degree. More. And you actually should be even more. Or maybe, actually no, you should be here. 7414. Okay, cool. I'm vaguely familiar with that symbol. I'm pretty sure that's in the Legemeton. Also, this game's volume has once again gone way too loud. I really hate this so much. There's two of you? Why did I choose hardcore puzzles? Basement. Oh my god, thank you. And that's the videotape. Left at the hotel 3 years ago. The one that we made with our wife. What's weird is why we made it too. We don't really know why we made it, but it's something that our wife and I made. Well, I say our wife because it really is our wife. Well, there's another thing that's really annoying about the controls when you get stunned. The stun feels worse because when you're holding forward, you then no longer hold forward after you get stunned. So you have to press it again. It feels very clunky. Open. Okay, once we're in here, I need a BRB really quick to check something upstairs. Sorry. Okay, back. Sorry about that. It's weird to think that he made a videotape with her 3 years ago. Because it could be anything, right? I think the obvious assumption that you think of when you first think of a videotape is it's something very sexual. It's a bit of a memento of their moment in heat. But is it really? More assholes. Oh god, there's more assholes. What's funny is that the way you're supposed to play this on hardcore is you should be playing much more stealthy, right? But even then, I think it's easier to just run away and dodge. Because the addition of the dodge really does feel like it changes the feel of things. But I don't know if it's an addition or if it was there originally. I can't recall that bit. It's been a very long time since I played just the intro of the Silent Hill 2. Just the intro too. I need this. Okay, I can't do that yet. But it never really feels worth it to go slow in this game. It's weird. It should feel more worth it, but I think the tension gets lost very easily. So this game's problem. Just tension gets lost very, very easily. The slack on the rope of tension is too long. They still want to play it. Like this, it's the weirdest thing where, in general, I love the concept so much that I can't help but want to play it. I just really, really dislike the monsters and the fighting and the having the backtrack and the stupid way the stun forces you out of holding the forward button. I just hate that so much. And mind you, the monster at this difficulty probably doesn't even chase you very, very much, right? Like, look at how slow and meandering he is. And even think about what's the point of that backtracking? What was the point of going to these two rooms, right? To add so much space, it feels like for no reason. There was no symbolism there. At least with the dice, there was symbolism. But for this, very often the game is just bits of backtracking like that, where you just go back and forth and you go into places with no discernible meaning. At least with the dice, you get a hint of the symbol that is trying to use to summon the demon. And in a way, you finish that symbol in order to move forward. It's like, thank you for playing along with our game, you know, the cult game. You've now earned this. But that, it's like, I'm just going around for no reason. Feels like. Also, this boiler room really reminds me of the basement of the hospital. Very similar. Can I take this with me? You can. Thank God. But even that, it's like, okay, what's the point? Like, what does this meaningfully do for me? What does this add to the experience of me having to wait here and like push this thing open? There's nothing chasing me. Hardcore doesn't change the enemy placement. It doesn't seem like. So what's the point? What's the point of making me go back in there? There's a lot of that meaningless backtracking, and then but done in the apartment over rooms, done in the hospital over rooms, done in the prison over like multiple cells, done in the labyrinth over multiple different doorways. There's bits of backtracking that are cool, and other bits where I'm like, what's the point? Just have the steam like blow up and then have this door open already. I'd get the same experience, man. It's completely flooded. Better leave. 25. The Venus Tears Bar. Now, Venus is fascinating because Venus is a planet, but it's also a god. So there's a bit of an element, well, two things going on there. Problem is, I don't remember what the god stands for, but the planet, and planets in general within occult, is it called occultism? I'm pretty sure it's called occultism, not demonology. I think demonology is specifically the branch that deals with demon worship. But in occultism, you have to be careful about the alignment of the planets because that determines the kinds of power that you can draw. What's funny is that it's only insofar as our solar system, and nothing more. Hey, the Little Mermaid. This is an interesting bit of symbolism too, because it's like no more dancing possible. The machine broke, and dancing presumably is something very important to our character and who they were with. Mary. With a lot of lures. And I mean, lures are interesting if you think about it in the context of what we've seen so far too. You get lures of all kinds. It's like, do you take the bait? Do you get some that's big, some that's small, some that's slender? But in general, a lure is designed to lure you in, but the way a person looks isn't really designed to lure you in. The way a person looks is just a natural consequence of how they look like. Laura? Are you here? Please tell me you're here. I need to get my stuff back. How do you... Be on the second floor. So we now have some major key items. With the figurine to do this now. I probably shouldn't do this yet. I do need my items at some point, I think. It's really about the center, eh? Because once you align the center, then everything else really flows from there. And then you align everything to that piece's center. I think that's correct. Oh, wait. That looks way more correct than the rest. But it still looks kind of off. This also looks correct, though. No, but this one should be aligned to those two on the side. So if we just align those on the outside, it's fine. Yep. Oh, oops. I forgot to align the outside of the one on the bottom right, too. That was off. He's moving the exact same ratios, except when you go a bit further. If you do whole rotations, then it gets off. Because the bottom one spins in sooner. You gotta go like this. Then you need to go backwards. Then you need to go one more backwards, I think. Oh, sorry, counterclockwise. And you gotta go one forwards, I'm pretty sure. In pacing. Wait, no, that's correct. Wait, is it correct? Go in. I don't think it's correct. Yeah, no. Oh! I thought you could only move the large disc, and I was like, okay, this is gonna take a long time. I couldn't. I was like, if you can only move the large disc, it's gonna take a lot of rotations until you finally line everything up. But no, that was silly of me. Sorry. That makes sense. But she still can't go all the way through because it's slipped off. However, this one locks her in. It has to be like this. So it's really about changing her path here. Choosing the right path for her here. So if she goes in from there, she's going to go down here. Well, I guess I only really care about the bottom entrance, right? Like the bottom entrance only really matters there. Here, the top entrance matters for both because she's on an isolated plane. Yeah, there we go. But also, it wasn't correct. I need to get the correct path here. It's really hard to see the graphic of how this should line up. There we go. So she should do a full loop. She should go through her own loop. She should get back around to the beginning. I think? Yeah. Yeah, to that side. There we go. In a slumber, deep in the poison sleep, on a bed of stone, dreams so alone. And so she wept in silence with no prince to marry. Her life to be forfeit, heart broken and solitary. When the clock would strike into the dead of night, hastily she would delve, alone all by herself. Oh. In a poison sleep on a bed of stone. So she wept in silence, with no prince to marry, her life to be forfeit, heart broken and solitary. When the clock would strike in the dead of night, hastily she would delve alone all by herself. That's so sad. You know, the idea of being sick and in sickness and in health. That's what it feels like. So this one is about timing. So if I look at what we just have, right? Let's see the notes of timing. Okay, listen, buddy. Reset. Okay, I clicked the reset button. It didn't work. But basically, you're trying to time the doors. See that? To go inside. So this one should be only one turn, I think, for her. Yep. So one turn for the middle. And you have to remember how many turns. Okay, I see. This one was like 3. This one's like 2. 3. 2, 3, 3. 4. No, 2. Sorry. 1, 2, 2. Though it does beg the question of like, what's the point of the reset button? What's the point of the reset button? 1. I want to say 1. It determines their movement speed. Boiler key. Good. If you take it literally, it's a fairy tale of somebody who is sick or poisoned in their bed. The poison could be sickness, or it could be, I mean, it could be poison. But I guess in either case, you're sick in some way, and so they're not able to go on and move where they want to move. In contrast, if you take the symbolism manner, it's specifically about being sick. And we know that Mary was sick because she was in the hospital. It's not a stretch to say that she's sick, I think. I think it works to say that. What's interesting to think about is that she was left alone in that story. Hit the wrong button, sorry. What's interesting to note there too is that cutscene, the way it looked, it's as if it's really emphasizing how James is taking his time, despite wanting to go see his wife this entire time. His wife, who he presumed to have been dead this entire time. But he's taking his time going into a locker to pick everything back up, which I kind of figured would happen, but I like picking my items up. Should have all the same things too. Videotape. Which interesting is that we have no videotape player, I don't think. At least none around here. And no more keys to go anywhere very important either. At least I'm pretty sure. And so, because she has no one in her life and she feels alone, she delves deeper by herself into dreams. But it's not really clear what the dreams are and what does it mean by the dreams. Is it real dreams, like actual factual dreams? Or is it more a feeling of being in a dreamlike state? Because you're so sedated by all these drugs, right? It's unclear. But you see what's weird? This is slow. But I want this slowness. This is the slowness that I would want. I don't want the other kind of slowness. I want this level of slowness. I want to experience the exposition. To go through it. See my wife. Maria? Maria? I want to soak in this environment. This is what I was hoping for. Sorry, I just ruined that. I ruined that whole sentiment. Also, I was annoyed with the sound effects, but it does sound weird. Just brace yourselves as we finally open up the videotape and see what's going on.
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area used to be a sacred place. I think I can see why. It's too bad we have to leave. Promise you'll take me again, James?
you are. Do you know where Mary is? Come on. Talk to me.
Mary's gone. She's dead.
Liar. That's a lie.
No. It's the truth.
She died because she was sick.
I killed her.
Kill her? Why'd you do it? I hate you. I want her back. Give her back to me. I knew it. You didn't care about her. I hate you, James. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. She was always waiting for you. Why? Why?
I'm sorry. Mary, you know, isn't here. Mary?
James! Where are you? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you. Please, come to me. Do you hate me? Please, why won't you come?
But where? Where are you?
You're so close now. Please, don't give up. Don't leave me out here, James! James!
Well, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting him to kill her. But it does make sense if you think about the idea of retribution and judgment, right? That idea of carrying forward some payment, some debt that you owe to the world around you, to the people around you, because of some action that you did. That's effectively what, you know, judges do. That's what judgment is. You do something that then necessitates that you pay it off in some way. And you would only do that in the sense of a crime, in the sense of somebody's life being sort of violated in some form, right? And we see different various ways of violation. We see someone taking retribution on the world because they were angry because they were violated as a child in the form of their mental health, the way that they were treated. So their happiness was taken away. We see Angela taking it out on her father, and she honestly is rightfully so, right? Because of the sexual assault, the implied sexual assault, but heavily implied to the point where it's probably extremely true, but still enough, I guess, like slippery points where it's like it could also be just anger and abuse. But let's say the fully sexual assault, taking it out on her father, right? Not taking it out, I think rightfully so, bemoaning his existence and being like, why were you even here? And then you think about how James plays into this. If everyone that we've met so far is at some crime, some sentence to pay, why is James here? And also by extension, why is Laura here? Why is she also here? Why was she called to Silent Hill? Presumably, or why was she let loose from the hostel without being transformed into one of the monsters, right? Knowing that Silent Hill, at least for the first game, the way that it affects people is real. But at least for James, now it's very clear. The problem is, you know, we have to apply that same level of judgment that we did in those readings. Do you forgive him, or do you say that he's wrong? And there's a bit of context that's missing. There's a very important bit of context. We know that she was sick at that point. Presumably not enough to really hurt her, but at the same time, We know, based on what they were trying to do with the sickness on the plants, they were trying to wash it away, wipe it away, but they couldn't. It just kept going and spreading. People were getting more and more sick. No one knew what was going on. And even the hospital was shutting these people more into their projects of sorts. The 3 core patients, one of them, I think, specifically being infected with this. But let's assume that that sickness is a part of the cult's method of spreading their influence, right? Then you get into the point of like, well, if James has enough reason to believe that she's never getting better, is it mercy? Or is it loss? Is it the loss of life? And for her to die in a place that feels like this, that is the peace that she found, to have her final moment be peace, is that necessarily the worst thing of her? At the same time, she wanted to come back. She wanted another day, tomorrow. She wanted another chance at life. She wanted to continue on. So, let's say it was for mercy. It's against her wishes. Right? There's a bit of a violation there. A violation of one's own free will, one's own desires. And subsuming it for James's own desire, whatever that was. And you can sort of take this anyway, but there's 2 main angles I can sort of think of, right? One is he's tired of it. It's sort of the caregiver effect. When you can no longer deal with being a caregiver and you're like, I'm done. I wouldn't kill someone for it, but it does really, like, it can burn you out. You know, having experienced it and also having seen people go through it, being someone's primary caregiver forever with no real progress can be a significant drag because it takes a lot of effort to make people better. Whatever that means, and by whatever metric, usually it's to be sort of normative within the world, to behave in a very normal way. But let's assume that she's not going to get better, and so James is sort of tired of that. To do that, does that justify it? And the other way, again, is the mercy angle. So, and then the third way, which I don't think is the case because he's very, very repentant about it, although there's something to be said about that. The third way that this could go out is that he actually was upset at her. So it's a bit of a form of that same feeling that drives the caregiver burnout, but specifically towards the angle of, you've ruined my life, you've taken the opportunities away from me, I can't even be myself anymore, I can't even live my life, I hate you for what you've done to me. Right? That's a very strong feeling, and that can absolutely exhibit in many different ways, right? It's important to recognize how that exhibits, and important to recognize how to snap yourself out of it, but let's ignore the reality of it. Let's think about James's situation here. Could that have been the case? It could have. I don't think it is because he's repentant about it, but then you think about how often he's been through this. If I'm assuming that he's been through this multiple times, if I'm assuming that he's stuck here constantly, and you forget your memories and you have to keep going through this whole sequence over and over again. Because there's a bit of a time element to this too, right? The way that we get photographs that are taken of the moments here, when it seems like, for instance, Eddie just killed the guy in the cafeteria, so who took that photo? Stuff like that, right? Or who painted that painting? It's almost like destined for you to go through this over and over. Potentially, he becomes repentant in our playthrough because we're playing the one playthrough that's at the end of his journey where it matters. Let's just assume many different things, but assuming it can go to those angles, there's a lot of different ways that this could go. And I think now we're starting to see not the reality of the place. I think the place is somewhat corrupted by it. But if you think about how old Silent Hill is and what this could all mean and what the cult is capable of, I think it is more of a reflection of peeling back the layers and seeing what's actually underneath. And you see that a lot, right? Because the foundations of things. You see the wire frames underneath, like the actual wire frames that, like, you know, barbed wire. It's not really barbed wire, but just that, like, chain link fence frame underneath everything. I think as we go through, the world reacts to James because we start to understand more and more about what he's done. And so we start to see more of what's underneath that facade, peeling back the layers. And when Mary says, I want to see you here, I don't think Mary means as in, I'm here in the space. I think Mary wants him to go to the same place that she is. Because where is she? There's a question of where is she, why is she coming through, and why on the radio? Why in the letter? Why in these things that, you know, typically I think in ghost hunting are implements that people use to try and gain a form of connection, of communication with a ghost, right? Waiting for a ghost to write in the book. Quite literally the phasmophobia thing. People actually do use these, right? Radio frequency stuff. Ghost writing, all of that. To try and communicate with someone. There's a very good chance that she's dead. And she's asking him to be there with him. To be there with her. Because she doesn't want to die alone. She doesn't want to be alone after all of this. And that even after all of this, Mary still forgives him. She still loves him, still forgives him. And she does so because she saw the good in him. And so maybe she, through her reaction to him, there's a possibility that we can infer that what James did was sort of the only choice that there was left. If we assume that she was going to die no matter what. But even then, if you think about how to judge him, did he have any right to do so? To end her life so early? It's hard to tell. Because she did want another tomorrow. She wanted to come back here. But now she never gets the chance to. And this is why I can't stop playing this game. I find it absolutely tedious and droning. I find it absolutely grueling in the sense of it tests my patience. I find it so slow and so meandering, the way that you go back and forth in the same places over and over and over again. But when you go through these moments, it feels all the more worth it. It's why I hesitate to say that maybe it is too long. It's why I still have a little doubt in the back of my mind, because it feels like it's meant to be this long. It's meant to be a boring, meandering experience in order to draw out that feeling of satisfaction by the end of it. But I don't know if it's that defined, if it's that detailed, if they really did go all the way, and if they were able to solidify that idea and bring it to life. If it was even intentional that it was brought to life, right? It could be completely unintentional. And it's because it's just a side effect of difficulty in general. Who really knows? But I will say one thing. The town was really cool. I enjoyed exploring the town. I really enjoy the moments when you're in the space just thinking about what's going on. I enjoy these slower moments that are intentionally slow and that aren't made slow by tedious enemies that block you away. That is the one thing that I hate the most about this game. How so often some enemy gets in your way and is just there to slow you down for no good reason. Other than to be another challenge in a series of challenges. So many of them that at some point it became meaningless. The fear was gone. The tension was gone. And it makes you wonder, was it intentional given the game's themes? I don't really know. It could be judgment all the same, right? I just don't know. What I do know is even if it was intentional, it's a very, very painful time. I want to make sure that I get every room too, because again, this game, it does have a weird way of doing the exploration. The way that you really don't want to miss anything in this game. That should break the floor, but I want to check out here. Here we go. There is no healing of thy bruises. Thy wound is grievous. It's why I'm so conflicted. But again, it's like if the original is even more meandering, if it's even more lost in its, within its space, if it forces you to go through emptiness and meaningless for no reason at all, I find it hard to want to do it again and again and again. But maybe it's worth it. Who knows? It's always hard with games like this because if it is a meta game design element, does that mean that it's good? Great for storytelling, but do you really want to experience it? Not really. Especially because assuming that the map in the first game, or sorry, in the original game is much like the first game, where it's just the objective, which is fine. Much of the game's elements are very obtuse, especially the light bulb with the red paint. That one I was just like, I have no clue. The music, yeah, the music is really good. I commented on it like very early on, and then I realized I should stop talking about it because I'm gonna keep talking about it. But I will say just the composition has been perfection, and also the style. It's the composition and the style, the way that the things sound. Like the execution compared to Silent Hill 1, yeah, there's more quality, but I still feel the same style through, right? I still see the same style all throughout this remake songs compared to the Silent Hill 1, even though it feels like they're both the same style. But you get more quality from it. It's what makes it that much better. It's nice. Not to say that it wasn't, not to say that it was low quality in Silent Hill 1, but you could tell when it felt very stock effecty, stock sound effecty. It was odd. Anyways, where's my judgment? Yeah, there's no way that I could read this unless you go to like super ultra texture quality. Wash yourselves. Make yourselves clean. Remove the evil of your deeds from my sight. A lot of the Bible, and I say this as somebody who has read the Bible very extensively growing up, because of my family's sort of default faith. It was a bit of a mixed faith situation. That's why it's why the Buddhism plus the Christianity thing is like very the themes are strong on my stream. But reading both extensively to get a better understanding, to sort of see the pros and the cons, because there's many flaws. A lot of the advice is just sound. Like, dude, just take a shower. It's like, just take a shower, man. You gotta take a shower. Wash yourself off. Take a shower. Don't eat shellfish. Don't eat pork because there's a lot of worms, and it took a long time for us to deworm every pig in America, mostly. And that's just in America, let alone Canada and other places too. Oh, that's such a crusty washroom. Shellfish because they'll poison you for the most part. Hard to really make them safe. This was the lion room. And that is a symbol of our demon. One of the many symbols. If you read the Legemeton, it seems like you need a fair amount of these, plus a fair amount of materials to summon the demon. So for instance, in the four corners, the wave, the omega thing, the chain, and the M. M for major. No, I won't take a shower. Have you read the Bible? Cassette player. Maybe she loved music and we like taking recordings. It is interesting that James liked to record moments, right? It's why it's fascinating that we deal with the memories, because these papers, it feels like someone's groping around in a brain, is what he said. But memories captured in video are very much the same concept. It's just we have some technological way to encode them, which is weird, but oh, so effective. Anyways, don't read the Legemeton because it gave me nightmares, and probably will give you nightmares too. What was in the basement actually? Because that should be the first floor. That's the stairway. Before we do, nope, it's locked up. That side's empty. seems very, very linear. I do kind of wish there was more meaningful exploration. Silent Hill, the town, had some pretty cool exploration bits. Like breaking certain windows to find memories, to look at certain posters that hint at sort of who these characters are and what their personalities are, was really nice. Especially the like dancing poster and the photograph. I kind of wanted more of that and less of the backtracking. And it feels like there's a combat sequence coming soon. Hey, glasses. If you fell asleep before, you're probably awake now. You are probably awake. I can climb that, but I want to see what's inside here. At least don't eat shellfish. What's funny actually is that now I'm getting allergic to shellfish. It used to be that I could eat shellfish constantly.
She will not be cured. All that suffering. I am no longer sure if it was of any use. If it meant anything at all. I can't say if this newfound understanding, if there's any wisdom to be had in all that happened. I suppose that's for you to learn, and I hope you will.
That's an interesting tape. Very on the nose to say, hey, there was no cure. Presumably, and the assumption is that he's talking about Mary, because Mary was one of the patients, right? And assuming that Mary was one, but not one of the 3 patients, though. Or maybe she was. I'm not really sure. It could also be in reference to Alessia from the first game. I don't know if it's going to go that far, though. But the suffering that Alessia went through, and the suffering that Mary goes through here, at least in gleaning from this one message, feels similar. They keep them alive for what? For what purpose? To serve an end. Except this guy, the director, says, what was the point? And assuming that that's Mary, maybe James was, you know, not... I don't want to say justified, because he still did ignore her wishes. Because again, in a way, she wanted to suffer to see tomorrow, which I think is a very noble pursuit of life. That everyone should feel entitled to because it's their life, right? It's her life to feel entitled to try and see a tomorrow that may not come because she simply wants to. But I don't want to say he's justified. But I do want to say he had a reason for it. That isn't just malice or ignorance. Stupidity at worst. Stupidity at worst. But it also makes you question, who was he talking to in reference to, I hope this information is of use to you? Because what does it matter to James? Or maybe it was for James to know. And so the doctor tells him to be like, hey, this is how you're going to live your life now. What are you going to do? And in a way, right? It feels even worse because if she wanted to live, James said, I don't want to take care of you. So I'm going to kill you. And make it so that, you know, I don't have to deal with you anymore. In a way. And that's fucked up. Lady of Light. Yep, step in. That was a weirdly lit cutscene. I think the water wasn't lit enough to really sell how strange it was. It was just enough that you could kind of tell that it was water though, so maybe that was the intent. But I feel like a bit more lighting in the water could have really sold the fact that you can't see how deep it goes. Which I think was the fear that it was trying to foster in me. But yeah, so let's say he does it, right? He doesn't want to take care of her anymore, then that's fucked up. It's why we see so many references to in sickness and in health. So quite literally, when you marry somebody, right? There's a religious sort of like framing of it, very Christian based, but also, I mean, I guess in most every religion there's a sort of idea of like a bonding of two partners, right? So let's just say, like in general, the idea of marriage is the bonding, but specifically that line in sickness and in health is to really emphasize that you're in this together forever. If my wife is sick, which she is now, she gets my full priority until she gets annoyed of me, like now, and then she says, "Hey, go back to streaming." In which case, it's like, "All right, honey, way ahead of you." Well, not annoyed of me, but she likes that I stream. And so it's like, sure, she's sick and it's annoying to take care of her. And it's going to be annoying. Like, it's very important to remember. Because I think it's very important to remember the facts, because it doesn't help anyone feel better, but it does help contextualize what you can expect in terms of what the caregiver needs as well to succeed. So think of you as like the person who's mediating for your friend who is a caregiver who's like ranting to you. When you empathize in that way, you recognize that the pain that they're going through is real, and so you can give better advice. That doesn't just amount to suck it up, because sucking it up is also it's what you have to do, but there's a way to do it that makes it more bearable in a very particular way. Because everyone's level of tolerance is very different. Baked beans with pork? What the fuck do you mean? It comes with pork? What? My British viewers, you never told me it came with pork. I'm gonna order some today. Holy shit, we're gonna do a baked bean stream for Halloween. Wait, no, I can't. No. Grocery stores are closed. It's a too late now. It's got pork in it. Halloween stream, baked beans. I'm salivating. Yeah, lots of things to think about here. The way James's life has ended up, the way and the actions that James did, and again the judgment that you can pass on to James. I think of it much more holistically because I've been in that situation, and I'm also aware of how difficult it is. But also, I'm aware that just blaming somebody doesn't necessarily make it better, and it could almost like exacerbate it if you just dismiss it, right? Because saying just suck it up and take care of her is also a bit of a dismissive statement, because it is hard to a very large degree. So also a game design tip, apparently, if you make it quiet before the moment of the scare, it makes it even more scary. So I want to remind you all, I'm a screamer. Angela? Hey, your father's strung up. Nice, good. Fuck that guy.
Mama? Mama! I was looking for you. You're the only one left. Maybe then I can finally rest. Mama. What's wrong? Wait. You're not my mama. It's you.
I'm sorry, Angela. I think you were right. What we're looking for, it's not here. Not anymore.
Thank you for helping me earlier. But I wish you hadn't. Even Mama said it. I deserve what happened.
No, Angela, that is not true.
Don't pity me. I'm not worth it. maybe you think you can save me? Will you love me? Care for me? Heal all my pain? That's what I thought. James. Give me back the knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself. Have it your way. It doesn't change anything.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
Damn. Yeah, trauma really gets you. Changes how you think. Makes you believe it really is your fault. You know? You internalize so much of it. And we do this a lot, constantly, every single day. We internalize so much of this stuff. I've learned a lot to be very careful with what I say. Obviously, I don't demonstrate it on stream, but because on stream I make sure people leave as ASAP. To really let them know that, hey, the stream is for me. Like, but in real life, I do care a lot about people's feelings. That's why you gotta be really careful about how you talk about how you talk to them, because words like that can stick with you. And again, the mother believing that her daughter deserved to be, you know, sexually assaulted, raped by her father, and the father saying you like she was fucking him. Like, it's just messed up. Messed up. And it's strange that James doesn't give back the knife, but at the same time, he doesn't want to give back the knife either. That was Laura. Because he doesn't want to be responsible for another death. It feels a lot like avoiding responsibility again. Another bit of avoiding responsibility. But at the same time, isn't it more merciful? This gets into a very complex topic, and I'm going to say that we should probably step away at this point. But especially if you have feelings like suicidal tendencies, or like a depressive attitude, or even just like depressive attitude, or depression at all. Okay, if you feel an existential dread, even, I would say you should leave as well. Like, though existential dread tends to manifest in a very different. That was a weird sound way. What the fuck is going on with the rendering? Pain and suffering and death to end it is a very complex topic, because on the one hand you have people who view it as cowardice, which is a bit silly. It's very scary to take your own life. On the other hand, you see it as somebody simply trying to end their pain and suffering. It's a solution, right? It's sort of the final solution. It's why it's sort of called colloquially the final solution. There really is no coming back from it. Try as we might, sometimes that might be the only case. Not to say that, you know, I'm saying this in a very absolute edge case way, okay? Not to be edgy, but more to say that that's why assisted suicide is a thing that's being thought of. I assisted her. Sorry, that was a very edgy joke for no reason. Sorry, this is a very important topic. Ignore that joke. The reason why it's becoming more and more of a thing is because some things are terminal. If you know you have 3 months to live, and you've tried everything, and quite literally there's no option for you left, and you're like now a week out from your death date, and you feel fucking awful, what's the point, right? And that's for the most extreme case, and there's even smaller cases where we don't see the damage and the scarring that comes in the mind. So what do you do in those cases? Like in Angela's case, she sees the flames everywhere. She's going to live like this for the rest of her life. It is hell on earth. It's suffering, no matter what you do. How do you judge that, right? 3, 1, 2 to be cleared out. Laura, stop. Okay, now we get to see, I guess, why Laura's here. Game over in Minecraft wasn't the first thing that came into your mind when you heard me say final solution. What is... Okay, does final solution have like a different connotation? Is there a different connotation to the word final solution? Is there one that I should know about that's like really bad? Yeah. Oh shit, that's okay, it's Holocaust. Sorry, not the Holocaust. Not the Holocaust. What's the other term? There's like a very specific term that you use that is like it is the end game of solutions for like suicide. It's like the thing that you can't walk back on. It has the same meaning, but like not the same context, okay? I don't mean the Holocaust. The Holocaust is obviously bad for very different reasons, right? I'm talking specifically about suicide and how it's like the last thing that you should be thinking of doing because you can't walk back from it. I swear to God, there was a term for it that's very similar to... Fuck the Nazis, man. Why do they co-opt different terms for the shit? They make it so hard to have like real discussions about this stuff. I mean, fuck the Nazis in the general, right? But also fuck the Nazis for all that they've done to ruin bits and pieces of the world. Perhaps it was, but you don't remember either. I swear I've heard it in some context, specifically about that context. And not about the Holocaust. I'm so sorry. And okay, to be fair, the reason why I don't know that is because I didn't read it. Like, I know about the Holocaust, but I don't know about all those little, like, language isms that they use to describe it. It's like the whole thing of, like, dog whistles. I'm pretty sure, like, there's a ton of dog whistles that I say, but I don't know that they're dog whistles because it's also... It used to be terms used for different things back when I learned about these things, too. You knew it from SAO or abridged. What the fuck do you mean? What do you mean... What do you mean the abridged version of Sword Art Online talks about the Holocaust? I feel like I'm in a fucking time... I feel like I am in a different timeline than all of you. What do you mean? Don't even explain that. Don't even explain it. We're gonna get banned after... I'm gonna get banned. Don't get banned too. What the fuck do you mean? What? Anyways, this thing is fearful. And it's afraid of me. What's interesting is that all the monsters are now dying. So it does make sense. The monsters were some representation, manifestation of James's mind. I kind of feel bad for it though. Let me put it out of its misery. Like, I don't want it to live in pain. The writer of it is Jewish. The writer of SAO Abridged is Jewish, and he made a Holocaust joke. That's a bold move. That's a very bold move. But of all the groups to make a Holocaust joke, they're the only group that possibly could. I commend him. I commend him for making light of it. For taking back something. That's bold. But yeah, okay, just what I meant about that whole talk was like the ethics of suicide, right? There's a very specific term that's it's roughly the same wording but slightly different. And there's a lot that goes into it. It's a very complex topic. Because then you get into this whole topic of like assisted suicide, right? How far do you go? And if somebody wants to end their life over it because what they see is a burning hell, what do you do? And James was just put in that situation with Angela, and he sees what Angela sees, and in spite of that, he still says, suffer. And think about the director's note, right? Was all that suffering worth it in the end? For what? And we see Angela. I find Angela fascinating because she's sort of the opposite end of Mary. Let's assume that Mary was sick, right? What the way that Mary approached her final days was, I hope for a tomorrow, and I want to try and see that tomorrow. Whereas Angela, it's like, I just want to see my mama. I just want to get peace. And then when those moments where she has that level of, I guess, like, I don't know if it's clarity, but it feels like that same sentiment of clarity where it's like the traumas arise again. Or sorry, where the traumas subside and she sort of sees her life as it is, and she's like, I'm tired of this. She wants to go. What she says is the opposite of Mary, which is, this is my life now, and I don't want to live this anymore. That's a very deep topic for a game. You know, that's a very deep topic for anything, I think. For any piece of writing to deal with. The ethics of taking one's life, the ethics of taking another person's life. But what's interesting is that James has taken his wife's life, but he's also taking countless lives. He exacted judgments onto Eddie because of what Eddie did. And Eddie was very much the same way as these two characters, but with a different target, right? Like Eddie is not trying to end his own life to end his own suffering. He's trying to end other people's lives to end his suffering. And presumably he got the person who did make him suffer, but then everything else is gratification. And you think back to those writings on that tombstone of during the execution part where you have to choose the right noose, right? You start to there was one bit where it was like, you know, at first there was a need and now there's a greed, right? Now there is a hunger for it. And that's what it feels like for Eddie. And so James murders him. But why does he decide that that's okay, but somebody wanting to end their life, to end their own suffering, isn't? Why does he decide that killing someone to stop the killing of others, particularly himself, is fine, but that somebody can't kill themselves to end their own suffering? So he doesn't give the knife over. It's a very interesting a dichotomy, right? It's that interesting. That's a very complex way of looking at this. It's a very complex way of writing this out. And when you delve into it deeper and deeper, and you think about both sides, you realize, holy shit! Like, this game deals with some very complex topics in a very what feels like thoughtful way too. It doesn't do it for shock value. It doesn't do it to be edgy. It really lets you linger with it and think about the implications of what you've just done. Really think about it. It's fascinating. It's a very, very fascinating piece of media. It's very complex. It's also why I'm killing these monsters, because I do kind of want to give them mercy, because I feel bad for them. But at the same time, is that right? I don't know. But assuming that these are manifestations of his mind, I'm assuming the reason why they're dying and why they're fearful of him is because they're afraid of him, because it's like now his conscious is aware of his unconscious or his subconscious, like the bit of his memory that was repressed in some way because of maybe the trauma of it. Now he is consciously aware of it, and so these things that were on his mind, which we saw in the form of how he reacted to Maria in like certain cases, right? That lust, that temptation of the bottle and of the body, are now like, wait, those feelings will start to disappear, because it's like now you're just left with probably assuming a sense of guilt, a sense of shame, a sense of anguish over what he's done, and a sense of defeat, right? You're gonna get that from him. But also, if you take the analogy of the pyramid heads being executioners and that painting that we saw connecting to the earlier timeline, all of it together. Very, very fascinating stuff. Fuck the Nazis. I'm gonna like this is not a Nazi safe zone. Every time somebody's come in to be like to espouse those values, I've immediately banned them. Fuck the Nazis. But also, I don't know, SAO Reverse sounds like a crazy show. That's weird. Just look at James' face here. He's looking at each and every single one. It's low-key one of your favorite animes if you can classify it as one. The like abridged series are interesting, right? Because presumably you could classify them as animes of their own right, in their own right. Because if you think about how they're written and the amount of effort that goes into them, and the amount of voice acting even, right? Just even if you ignore the voice acting, the amount of writing that goes into them to carry on a plot across, it's fascinating. They could be their own shows, and it could be a show on Mad TV at that point. Though I don't know if Mad TV would do a Holocaust joke. It's a very, very risky move. I think even for Mad TV. And the editing, yeah, and the editing to take an edited piece, slice it even more, and redo it. It's a bit like sampling music. And presumably, right? Again, if you take sampling music as its own form of music, I would argue that the abridged ones are really much, really do deserve that title of their own show. Though I suppose there's a purist view and then there's the remix view, right? I'm not gonna get into that. I do like the grid of all 9. As if now it's really taking our memories, as if now we're really looking into something. I do wonder what this is, though. Still, we haven't really figured out what this is. But the arrangement really reminds me of just a grid of decisions. But I don't know if that's correct. And maybe it's just biased. Like, it's just my bias of seeing those shapes in that pattern. He doesn't even care anymore. He's done.
James!
Leave her alone. Leave us both the hell alone. I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore. I'm ready.
That's interesting. That he doesn't need them anymore. He doesn't need the ability to judge things. He doesn't need their cold, tough exterior. He doesn't need them to be able to survive anymore. He doesn't need them to rationalize his decision anymore. He's ready to accept it for what it was. Very, very interesting. I wouldn't enjoy this as a fight. It's very, very boring as a fight, but it is cool. Conceptually, it's amazing. Storytelling-wise, it's fantastic. But I'm glad that we're playing on light mode to make it easier. Because boy, does this take a while. But he doesn't need them anymore because he's come to terms with what he's done. With the reality of it. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. James, just reload the gun, please. I'm begging you. This fight is so boring. It's so boring. I'm actually starting to like fall asleep so slowly. It's also why he tells them to leave Maria alone. Because it's just a reenactment of what they've done. Of what he's done. I'll talk about it later, when it's more quiet. I really need to just focus on just ending this. There we go. Oh my god. Yeah, they judged it all right. That was their final judgment. He no longer needs them. It's why they endlessly kill Maria, because it's just a replaying of the choice that he made, the decision that he made, the justifications that he decided on in dealing with Maria. Why they do what they do. They're his judgment. A manifestation of his choice in that moment. And it's why they off themselves at the very end, because it's like, hey, we judged you to be free. In a way, he's judged himself to be free. And James is literally saying, I no longer need you, I get it. And in a way, he's judged himself to be free of the guilt. Free of the some feeling about what he did. Some way that he feels about what he did. Well, whatever that is. Now there are two doors. Rust-colored egg, scarlet-colored egg. The rest is this, right? You stay in this world, and you live your life here. And there ain't shit that you can do. The scarlet is you go back to reality and you live your life. You just live in a normal place. You move on. Let's get a little rusty. I'm curious to see what the rest is. Or maybe it just means nothing at all. Maybe there's no difference at all. That is such a cool element. Depends on how you look at it, but it's either a figure that's standing triumphantly or somebody that's almost hanging from a gallows. Strung up on it. Very, very cool.
What do you want, James? Flowers? I don't want any damn flowers. Just go home already. Look at me. I'm disgusting. Between the disease and the drugs, I look like a monster. Well, what are you looking at? Get the hell out of here. Leave me alone already. I'm no use to anyone. I'll be dead soon anyway. It'd be easier if they just killed me. But I guess the hospital's making a nice profit off of me. Why are you still here? I told you to go. Are you deaf? Don't come back. James. Wait. Please. Don't go. Don't leave me alone. I didn't mean what I said. Please. Tell me it'll be okay. Tell me I'm not gonna die. Help me.
That cuts deep. Very, very deep. I've been in that situation many times. Many, many times. Not to that degree, but enough that I very much understand what she's thinking at. I did mention this before very early on in our playthrough as a whole, that potentially she doesn't look like the way that she does because of all the medication, right? And I think I nailed it there. It's sort of why he looks back fondly at Maria. It's what he wants it to look like. It's why the video is there too. It's why she has the picture. It's when she was feeling better. It's when she looked better. And you see the conflict that arises in one's mind, right? You want to push the world away, but you also want to get help. I alluded to this somewhat when I talked about this, that the type of behavior that I saw within people that were depressed around me too, right? The way that they push people away, but the truth is they actually want someone there to like help them. It's hard. It's very, very hard to deal with those two emotions because you don't want them to be there to remind you of the state that you're in. You don't want them to pity you because it feels awful. At the same time, you don't want to be alone in this world. It sucks. You don't want to lose all that you loved and had. Down or up? Give me ammo, so it entices me to go down or up. Yes. Yes. Shape forces the mind. And that's the save. That's the save thing. Because remember, there's still the element of the cult, right? We know that they use people's minds against them. We know that they use our feelings against us in order to try and manipulate us into meeting their demands. But is that the case here, fully? Or are we the victim of a byproduct of that process initially, from the first game? His shape forces the mind is a strange statement to make. Mary? She must be so annoyed. You know, like she must be absolutely annoyed.
Mary? I have missed you so much.
I've missed you too. We can finally be together. Forever.
No.
James. Honey. What's wrong?
I'm sorry. I know you tried,
James, please.
but she's gone. I know that now,
Stop it.
and I can't just keep pretending.
Shut up! What do you want? Do you even know anymore? I'm yours. I'm here for you. So what if I'm not her? I can give you what she never could. I can be better than her. What else do you want me to be? What else can I be?
I am so sorry, Maria. I really am. But this has to stop. It's time to let it go.
No.
What?
I won't let you do this to me. I won't let you go. I can't!
That was interesting. Every time it dumps us into combat, I almost want like a moment to think about what happened. But then I gotta think about dealing with this. Which is a bit frustrating, the way that the game is designed to pull you out of things. Press pause? I don't wanna. Okay, if I pause, right? It breaks the pacing that they determine first. It's why I don't tend to like to pause, unless I have to go BRB. I tend to like to go at the pace that the game developers have given you. Because that's how you actually get to experience the vision that they give you. The pause is a way for you to interrupt that process because of practicality reasons. But the experience that the game developers have built for you is specifically to go in one full swoop. It's meant to be this fast. But it doesn't mean that it was necessarily perfect. But it is meant to feel like this. It doesn't mean that I enjoy it, but it is meant to feel like this. I like to see things for what they were designed to be. Even if it doesn't really feel good. I enjoy being forced to sit through someone's vision. As annoying as it is. And this is a very interesting boss fight. It's a reminiscent of all the bosses that we've done so far. Since the pause is in the game, it's also part of the vision, right? I know you mean that to be funny, but I also want to dissuade that in a way because it's like you can tell what's a part of the core vision that they outline and what's just something that you need to do because of UI and UX concerns. Like just like the barriers of reality show themselves because I can't not eat. And so you have to save the game. I can't not eat. They try their best to make things fit, like saving, but pausing the game because your wife is about to give birth. You can't really work around that. You know, so I like to see their vision as best as they tried to, but I'm gonna like you're very painfully aware of like what's the happy path that they made for you, and then what's the stuff that they built to support that happy path, so that you can at least get through the happy path, even if it takes a little bit longer. This is just the supporting framework. I know it feels pedantic and semantic, but it's also important to me to separate those two, because that really is what it feels like. This boss is so frustrating. I just want to grab the rifle ammo. One shot it. I wish I had more rifle ammo. It's very slow and boring. Remember the device that we saw? And now the character, this? It's a whole different character.
James. James. James.
I just want to let her talk for a bit.
James.
The way she pleads.
James. James. James.
I miss you so much. I tried. I really did, but I can't. Just can't go on without you. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. I know this isn't what you would want. But I guess it doesn't matter anymore. You're not here. Are you?
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday. But you never did. Well, I'm alone there now. In our special place. Waiting for you to come and see me. But you never do. So, I wait. Wrapped in my cocoon of pain and loneliness. I know, I've done a terrible thing to you. I wish I could change that, but I can't. I feel so pathetic and ugly laying here. Every day I stare up at the cracks in the ceiling, and all I can think about is how unfair it is. The doctor came today. Told me I could go home for a short stay. It's not that I'm getting better. It's just that this could be my last chance. Even so, I'm glad to be coming home. I missed you so much. But I'm afraid, James. I'm afraid you don't really want me to come home. Every time you come to see me, I can tell how hard it is on you. I don't know if you hate me or pity me. Maybe I just disgust you. I'm so sorry. When I first learned I was gonna die, I couldn't accept it. I was so angry. I struck out at everyone I loved. Especially you. And that's why I understand if you hate me. But I want you to know, I will always love you. Even though our life together had to end like this, I still wouldn't trade it for the world. Well, this letter has gone on too long, so I'll say goodbye. I told the nurse to give this to you after I'm gone. Which means that as you're reading this, I'm already dead. But that's okay. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I just hope the pain will end soon. So that you remember me for who I was. And not what the disease made me. I want you to go on. I want you to live. For yourself and for others. Like you did for me. James, you made me happy.
Damn. We finally got even more of the letter as well. So now we see what her true thoughts were. And again, do you see the strange choice that James makes in spite of what his wife wants again? There's always that thread there. Him going against what his wife ultimately wants to enact his own will on it. Of course, he's suffering, but at the same time, it's sort of that pattern of behavior, right? Fascinating. And yeah, like you can kind of tell he was very hesitant the entire game, even jumping down into the hole. You really get the sense that James is really, really hesitant to face the thing that he really doesn't want to do. That was a great ending sequence. Again, it's fascinating that this game has those bits and pieces where so much of the parts that make the game so good are broken up by large amounts of tedium that don't feel very, very fun. You're not really thinking about the story, you're not really talking about it. Very often you're just going through these things to find meaningless items, to go back and forth into random zones. You don't really get to experience it, you're just there waiting for the next part to happen. But again, it feels so meta in the way that it's done, because that's what it feels like within James's shoes. And within Mary's shoes, right? Very often when you're in a hospital, sick as you are, you're just waiting for that next high moment of your life, waiting for that next, high point, waiting for that one visit that changes your life. Otherwise, you're just staring at the ceiling, the cracks in the ceiling, waiting for something to happen. It's why I hesitate to say that it's necessarily bad. It is kind of the point, but I also sort of wonder, did I have to feel that to get that same sense of catharsis to empathize? I don't know. Because I've never died, and I still fear death. I've never killed someone, and yet I can imagine why someone would. So is it enough for me to use my imagination to do so? To empathize in that way? Probably. And for the sake of a game, it could have been better. But you can't deny that for the sake of the story that they've written, it absolutely works well. And they've absolutely nailed it. But boy oh boy, was that long. That was very, very long. And I really, really love all of that. And having Maria be that dream of his, that ideal version of Mary that he brings to life, because we are within his mind throughout the entire game, right? It's very clear once we get through it all that we're within his mind. Him bringing her to life and her not wanting to go away, because she's been given so much form, because he spent so much time away from Mary. He's been avoiding her for so long that Maria has had all that time to become real. It's why she didn't want to go. And it's why we saw those devices, right? It's the hostel scene. I think you could take it very literally. It sort of ties in together, but I think ultimately it was more about different versions of the town colliding together to know about those 3 patients, right? Specifically though, the way that Maria looked at the end there, that was what Mary looked like. That was Mary by the end of it all. When we peeled back the layer, the facade on top, the memory that we wish to hold, and even in Mary's words, the memory that she wanted us to remember her by, we came face to face with who she really was. It's a very bittersweet ending, but it works out so well. I think an ending where he gets his happiness, where Mary comes back to life, would have devalued everything that we've gone through. That ending, with how bitter it was perfect for it. So good. So good. God, I feel so conflicted, right? It's like, should I enjoy the tedium? Should the tedium be there? Should it not be there? It's so hard. But I do love how both games ended with a very interesting song too. Very much the same notes too. Same composition, or similar composition. It's nice. Okay, well, now that the emotional part's gone, I saw your chat message about how your mind can resume back even if you pause. I get that too, but at the same time, the reason why I want to go with the built-in pacing without any pauses, like as much as I can, I want to go as long as I can, right? Because the pause is artificial to the moments that they have it there. It's not that I can't resume at any point. It's that I don't want the moments to linger for too long. I want those moments of interruption. I want those moments where the images flash on by, because that's what they intended. They intended for you to be barraged, to have to really create space for you to think. They intended for all of it to be taken as a sequence, and that's why they have breaks at specific points, because that's the moment when they want you to take everything in, to then think about it, to let it sink in. If I paused any earlier, when we get to the bed scene where she's there, laying there, saying James, I think the impact would have been so much worse there. It was super important for us to go through all of that, to feel that tension all the way through, to finally get that somber moment where she's just saying James over and over and over. It was super important. And I think if you pause earlier, you break the tension too soon. So, but also it's a difference of opinion, right? Like, I get that too. But I think for a game like this, for both Silent Hills, it's been very important to go all the way at their own pace. It means something. Ending in water. 1 of 8? I'm not playing this game 8 fucking times. I'm gonna go fucking insane. I'm sorry. I don't think you should play games multiple times. No, or rather, I think you should play multiple times if you want to. But if the game forces you to play multiple times to get all 8 endings, I'm going to go insane. Because it is so... I did 999 dodges on the dot? Wow. That's pretty good. And again, I want to point out here, we were playing on hardcore for like 80% of the game. The final 20%, I was like, I'm too tired of the game. I think we did pretty good. But one ending is 21 hours. Let's say even if you know all the answers, maybe I can get that down to maybe 5-6 hours, right? That's still 5-6 hours per ending. How many hours are there in a week? 40 hours. You have to play this game for a week. Just go watch a YouTube video. Wait, you can play with access to additional items, graphics, modes, and endings. Huh? Oh. And it doesn't have saves, does it? What doesn't have saves? What do you mean? Maybe that's sorry. Also, New Game Plus. Oh god. You have to play New Game Plus to get the other endings. Why? God, why? Why would they do this? Yeah, I'm gonna veto that decision of playing this New Game Plus to play some more. Cool game. Great game. Really good. It really does get long in the tooth. I think the second half, or rather, any interior zone, it gets so long in the tooth, and it stops being fun to explore once you go through it one time. But then it keeps making you re-explore the same rooms that you've been through the entire time. And the puzzles were very, very light most of the time. Even on hardcore difficulty and hardcore puzzles, it still felt like the puzzles weren't really stretching me. So the only one that was confusing was the red light bulb. And that one was just although, I mean, to be fair, also the motel number. But that's just because I didn't understand that the game is very literal with the puzzles. It expects you to brute force it by examining everything. And it quite literally, I mean, the first thing that we did to get into the Jade Dragon restaurant was to brute force it. So, you know, it wants you to brute force many things. Within that paradigm, it starts to make sense. But then within that paradigm, the puzzles start to lose a lot of their difficulty. And I still think it's a bit too long in the tooth at those points. But again, I think because it feels like that was the point. It feels like it was the point to make you go through all of that for the sake of immersing you into the experience that James had, right? Through all of this. But to then play the game 8 times for 8 more endings, I don't know. The game does have saves, right? And we do get a new game plus, and presumably we get new items, but dear God, I don't know if it's worth it, you know? Because so much of the game felt like tedium. Genuinely. The highs are high in this game, but I think they could have been high even without the tedium. Just because of the depths that it goes to, right? Like the highs of the game is the writing and when you get to interface with the story. And when you really get to ponder on these moments and the depths that they go to build this story up from the ground up, it goes deep. Very, very deep. I don't think you need these long, drawn-out, tedious moments in between you're fighting meaningless monsters. Well, not meaningless, but the monsters get very tedious in order to feel those highs because of how deep the highs go, because of how deep the story goes. So if I could get if I could get an abridged version where there's no monsters, I get 3 times movement speed, I think I would enjoy it a lot more. I don't think I can do it again. Just go watch YouTube. I'm just gonna go watch YouTube for the rest of the endings. I can't deal with it. It sucks too because it's like, you know, the design of the game I think works even today, and it would have worked a lot better way back then. But I'm just over it because it's a whole different time frame, right? For me personally, it's a very personal choice. It's a very personal preference too, because if you enjoy only these types of games and you want to see it all, which I do, and you have the time to dedicate to it that doesn't conflict with other things that you want to do, then you go for it. But that used to be me, and now it isn't any longer ever since I was 12 or 11, whenever I started having to really seriously think about, you know, surviving. So it's hard for me to want to do that. But somebody else is going to come in and say, oh, but it's the whole point. You get more value for your game. But I'm not talking about like that. I'm talking about like, if I have to, if I have to, then if I can't, then I won't. But even if I have to and I can, I don't want to. Because what does the tedium add to the experience? Nothing. Nothing at all. I don't know. It was weird. And it's weird too because you could make it faster by remembering everything or writing your own guide. But then what's the difference between writing a guide and finding a guide? But then it says new items, new encounters, new puzzles, new challenges, new endings, and only available in New Game Plus. Man, it's such a weird design. And again, it's my complaint with many games that do this replay thing, right? Very few games do the replay element well. Nier Automata was the only one where it was at least for me, knowing my mind frame, was palatable, very palatable. I felt like it was way too long, way too long. But even then, it cuts out most of the tedium as you go through the the additional endings. For the most part, you just continue on the flow, and it skips a lot of the in-between bits, which is nice. Remember, this is the room in Ringu. Oh, I see it now. Yeah, see, I didn't recognize it because I hadn't gotten into the room yet, so I had no clue. But that makes sense. I also don't remember anything about the Ringu experience. Not that it wasn't memorable, but, just... We did a lot today. Like a lot. But thank you for actually pointing that out. That was nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to really think about this one. I might even just do it offline for myself, but I don't even know if I want to. Again, it's just hard to want to. Valkyria Chronicles had the highest difficulty. Holy shit! Don't even remind me. That game was a fucking slog. I hated Valkyria Chronicles. And you didn't finish it because you couldn't choose the highest difficulty because it was too easy and boring that way. Yes. Yeah. It was just like there was just something because it's weird, right? The way that they scale things, behind a New Game Plus, it's like, what's the point? It's the same thing over and over again. Why do I get to choose it now? Especially for a game like Valkyria Chronicles, where you get all the same gameplay elements immediately. Although that game is a bit interesting because your knowledge of your playthroughs affects your future playthroughs, which then affects the outcome that you get because of how strict that game is in terms of the decisions and times. But that's more of a whole different thing, I guess. But in general, yeah, like I don't find New Game Plus to ever be enticing. If it only gave me the highs, like Nier Automata, like Nier Automata, and even that game didn't give you only the highs, there were still tediums between the endings, I would love to do it. I just can't find myself doing it here. And honestly, I think I like this. Because it's one thing to go for all the endings as a completionist thing. It's another to think about it as this is the ending that we got, right? This is the result of our actions as James. James has ended his life. And I think it's important to end it here because to go any further would spoil this playthrough. Because then it would change the course of history for who James is. But it also lends credence to the idea of it being more of a time loop game. So there's a lot to think about. But I'm glad that we're done. I'm glad that we went through it. I never want to go through it ever again. It's a great game that I never want to experience ever again because the lows are very low. Not as low as the original Silent Hill 1, for instance, which I'm assuming Silent Hill 2 is very similar in gameplay style. So it's still a lot more fun. But the highs are so high that you almost can't just leave it up to watching a video to fill in the gaps. Which is why I feel very conflicted. So, yeah. Fun stuff. Very, very painful stuff. Never again.